¡Lucha! ¡Mucha lucha! ¡Mucha lucha! ¡Mucha lucha! It's a way of life. ¡Mucha lucha! ¡Mucha lucha! Here we go! ¡Mucha lucha!
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Mucha Lucha podcast. Once again, I'm Rich, and with me is Los, and this is episode 15, post Royal Rumble, post Monday Night Raw, and we are in the midst of getting SmackDown started tonight. We will be talking, I guess, we'll talk SmackDown later on in the week. But right now, let's talk some Royal Rumble. Let's talk some. Let's talk about how you feel about this whole Royal Rumble thing. Period. Before we break down the matches, let's just start with the Royal Rumble, even though it was the last thing. But first, overall, as a pay-per-view, how did you see this Royal Rumble? Did you expect more? Did it live up to the hype that you thought they had going on? What were your thoughts on the overall? If you could give it a grade, what would you grade this Royal Rumble?
B-. Just because there weren't enough surprises. The only really surprise was Ty Dillinger.
Yeah. Yeah. I was very, very let down by the fact that they didn't have any. Seemed to be surprised. Even Ty Dillinger was almost kind of like a given to the crowd because I think everybody expected that one. But even with that, man, I think the quality of the Royal Rumble was kind of didn't live up to what I thought was going to be. They didn't use the big three guys. They didn't use Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, or Undertaker as much as I thought they were going to do. Braun Strowman didn't get as far as I was hoping for him to get. And there wasn't really anything that stood out as a defining factor that was going to set up any storylines for WrestleMania for later down the road. So I just think I thought, to me, the Royal Rumble, I kept finding myself waiting for the Royal Rumble and overlooking the matches, but I think as a pay-per-view, the Royal Rumble kind of fell flat compared to a lot of the matches in that night. Let's talk about the big three. Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, and Goldberg. I guess the first thing that happened we can talk about was Goldberg eliminating Brock Lesnar in like record time. Again running right through him. How do you think this is gonna play out? I know that later on Monday Night Raw, Paul Heyman called out Goldberg again for another match at WrestleMania. But to me, and I know we talked about it a little bit, but to me, it's hard as a fan to get invested in a match at WrestleMania when Goldberg ran through Brock twice easily. I think combined 3 minutes, maybe that they battled and then he got ran through. So I think it's just hard for you to set that big caliber match between those two at WrestleMania again.
Well, I feel like at WrestleMania, Brock will finally win one, but it's not looking that way. I mean, I wouldn't be completely shocked if Goldberg beat him again, and that's how the rivalry ended, as that being the stain on Brock Lesnar's legacy. I really question it, though, because for the last 4 years, they had built up Brock Lesnar to be this unstoppable beast, and then a part-time guy comes back, and he's just running through Brock Lesnar left and right. And I don't know. I don't really like how this storyline has been built up, with that aspect. The rivalry's obviously there, all the ingredients for the rivalry to be huge and to be very anticipated. But the fact that they've had Goldberg dominate Brock Lesnar in that manner is really shocking. When it happened the first time, it was shocking. It was even more shocking this time, just because I felt like they would probably wait to have all three of the three big guys, the guys that were hyped up, The Undertaker, Goldberg, and Brock Lesnar, all in the ring at the same time like they had on Monday Night Raw. But that didn't happen. And like you said, he eliminated Brock Lesnar, pretty easily. It only took him 2 moves. Um, you know, it really like it puts like a big gap between like Goldberg and the rest of the roster. Just because when Brock Lesnar first came into the Rumble, he was dominating. He was the same old Brock Lesnar as always, and then Goldberg comes in and just eliminates him, in 30 seconds. So I don't know what to expect at WrestleMania. I was reading months ago, well not months ago, maybe like a couple weeks ago, that they were gonna do this match at Fastlane so that they could give each of them a different type of storyline for WrestleMania. But we haven't heard anything about a Fastlane pay-per-view being in between, Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania. I'm thinking that it might just be Elimination Chamber. And if that's the case, I really don't want to see this match main event WrestleMania, which might be what happens. That would be doing WrestleMania and the brand of WrestleMania a big disservice if they were to go that route, man.
Yeah, and like you said, I think a big point of what you said is you can't really like set up a big match for Brock Lesnar other than Brock Lesnar. I mean, not for Brock Lesnar, but for Goldberg, other than Brock Lesnar, because if you put him against Roman Reigns, if you put him against Kevin Owens, all these guys that were in the main roster didn't stand a chance against Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar destroyed everybody, which was kind of his thing. And so then you have Goldberg destroy Brock, and then you can't make it. Like, the math wouldn't add up for you to make a match and then say with Kevin Owens or say with Roman Reigns, and for them to even give Goldberg even a small chance of a fight. So I'd be interested to see how they do it. I can see Goldberg maybe getting a title shot at Fastlane, maybe against Kevin Owens. And maybe that sets up the WrestleMania match to be for the title, and maybe that's the edge that gives Brock Lesnar the motivation to beat him, and he goes on a tear. But as it is for them two, man, I just don't think. First, I don't like being a Brock Lesnar fan. I don't like that they just squashed him like that. I think it would have been a lot more interesting for the fans if they had competitive matches. And if they had a competitive back and forth at the Rumble. But, right now I'm not necessarily looking forward to that match just because I'm scared they're going to do the same thing. And then even if you give it to Brock, it's a cliche, and then you just kind of know what's going to happen. But moving on from them two and seeing, and just I guess we'll have to see what happens with them. The other big hyped up piece was Undertaker. And I'm pretty sure, I don't remember, but Undertaker did eliminate Goldberg, right?
Yeah.
So he eliminates Goldberg, and number 30 comes out, and everybody's waiting because there haven't been no surprises all night. And then the worst thing that WWE could have done for the Royal Rumble happened, and that's Roman Reigns coming out of at the number 30, which I mean, you could go back and if you haven't paid attention to how the crowd reacted, he got basically the most booed reaction all night, especially after not only not selling the fact that he got beat up in that match with Kevin Owens enough, but he came out and started destroying, and then eliminates Undertaker, which immediately puts him in a heel perspective because everybody loves The Undertaker. And it's hard for anybody to cheer for anybody who eliminates The Undertaker. And so the rumors have been, as far as I've been reading and as far as I've been seeing around, is that that's going to eventually set up for a match between Roman Reigns and Undertaker. And I just don't, because of what I've seen Undertaker look like, I mean, I was hoping he would at least come back and be somewhat in shape for how old he is. And this time is the first time that I've seen that, it just looked like Undertaker was sitting at home waiting for the Royal Rumble and then just kind of walked in. And I didn't look too in shape. I mean, he had a little bit of a belly. He's just starting to look his age now. He doesn't feel like he can, he looked gassed after being a couple minutes in the ring. And I just don't think I had read some things, and I have it here on my phone, and I haven't looked too deep into it. But there is some talk that he has some health issues at the end of the Rumble backstage. So I just don't think one, the Undertaker is going to be at WrestleMania if his health is a concern, and even if, I just don't think a match with Roman Reigns is going to be a match that's going to, be good enough to put in that pay-per-view.
Oh, no, that's a terrible matchup, man. And when I first read those rumors, I couldn't believe it. But then again, I could believe it because Roman Reigns is Vince's golden child. He is the guy that Vince believes will be the next John Cena, the heir apparent to the throne. But, that would be a terrible match because obviously Undertaker cannot be the man who is the A side, the man who controls the match and the pace of it. And Roman Reigns is still the B guy. He's not ready for that stage. He's not ready for that magnitude of a match. And you brought up the Undertaker looking old. Yes, he did look old for the first time ever. He looked real slow. His moves were very lethargic and lackadaisical. And I had been reading a couple weeks ago that apparently he needs knee replacement surgery.
Yeah, I think he also needs hip surgery.
Yeah. And and I guess he's trying to hold that off until after WrestleMania. But I don't know, putting him against Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns is a physical guy. He's a big, strong guy. I think, like I brought up in the last podcast, I think WWE needs to capitalize on the fact that John Cena and The Undertaker are available for this WrestleMania to some extent, and just go ahead and have that dream match once and for all, get it over with. Don't try to do like you did with Sting and hold it off for the next year because, anything can happen with these old guys. And, so they need to pull the trigger on that match, and they need to put Roman Reigns against Braun Strowman. They've been hinting at a possible rivalry between those two, and I guess I'll go ahead and lead us to probably the first big match that we're going to talk about, the Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens match with Chris Jericho in a shark cage suspended above the ring. It was a good match. Roman Reigns looked very good. Kevin Owens, looked good as always. He's a great worker. Chris Jericho did his part. It never got to a point where we would forget that he was there. He was loud, he was vocal, and he even got in the match to some extent when he threw Kevin Owens the brass knuckles, where obviously Kevin Owens has never used brass knuckles before because it looked like he broke Roman Reigns' nose.
Yeah, he hit him legitly.
Yeah, with that Superman punch. But we'll fast forward to the climax of the match, the end, when I don't know where Braun Strowman came in and power slammed Roman Reigns through a table that Roman had set up in the corner of the ring. And I think that's the rivalry they need to go for a Roman Reigns. The only thing that would make me a bit hesitant about that is the fact that Roman, he can't lead a match, and obviously neither can Braun Strowman. So I don't know how you feel about that, man.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think they are, from what I've been reading, they're doing a house show circuit with them too, where they're going to be having a couple matches with each other. So hopefully that leads into them being able to have good enough matches, because he did at the end have some pretty good matches with Rusev. I know Rusev is a little bit smaller than Braun Strowman, but he's able to do it with a guy who is as physical as he is, and Braun Strowman is a lot more physical. I think that they can have some good matches. I would like to see, and this is the one time I would have liked to seen them keep the U.S. title on Roman Reigns, because I would have liked that rivalry for it to be for that. That way it adds a little more to it. But going back to the match itself, man, I think Vince, and I think this is what everybody's assuming, is that Vince, this is the prodigal child, this is the chosen one, and Vince is pushing him very hard. But I think Vince is trying to push him more and more towards the top level guy, and every time he ends up coming back down to mid-level card, because that match, man, it made Kevin Owens that much more likable. Like the fact that Kevin Owens was the guy who went through that pyramid of chairs he set up. He was the guy that got power bombed through a table. He even when Roman Reigns went through a table, Kevin Owens, frog splashed him from the ring to the outside. And it's those things, those small little things that fans appreciate, because then there's a struggle, and I think what's lacking for Roman Reigns in his character is that they've built him up to be this invincible guy, where for the past few weeks it's taken Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho to beat him, and even then, he's like John Cena used to be until recently. He doesn't sell enough. He doesn't sell good enough. Even when he got rocked by that Superman punch with brass knuckles, he immediately gets up and then he beats on Kevin Owens again. And it's just those little things that the fans are like, okay, now you're not that tough. You can't just assume you're that tough. And so I think those are the little things that are keeping him behind. And that only works to me if he's a heel. If he's a heel, then he can wrestle like a heel, and that works more. But I just think as of right now, when you're trying to push him as the next face, you have to build a struggle. I think that's why the John Cena thing, and then we can transition into that match. The John Cena and AJ Styles match has so much storyline behind it and so much drama, because AJ has been, he's beaten John Cena before, and John Cena doesn't know if he can beat AJ. And that just made that much even more special, and what made it, I think, in my opinion, match of the night. Because in the Roman Reigns, every storyline he is, he doesn't seem like he's beatable. He doesn't seem like, you never think, oh, he might not overcome this. And I think that's a thing that they need to give him a little bit of struggle, maybe with this and Braun Strowman. Then this can be the storyline where he's like, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna pull this one off, but it's a struggle, but I'm gonna come out on top somehow, and maybe this is the way that he gets over, or this is the time where Vince finally realized that the whole crowd is waiting for Roman Reigns to be a heel. I think the minute that you give Roman Reigns the go ahead to become a heel, it's the minute that he actually starts getting cheered for, because he wrestles like a heel. He has that persona already. He's done it before in the Shield, and it's just a matter of time till I'm hoping that they give him the go ahead, and I think that's the way you build him up to the main star. And sometimes you have to work yourself up from being a heel to developing your character and finally, making the face turn into a main story guy. But when it comes to that match, I would give it a A minus. I'll give it an A because of Kevin Owens and the show that he put, but just the fact that the lack of selling and how they book Roman Reigns just keeps that match from being a A plus match, man.
Yeah, I'll probably give it a B, but I want to touch on something that you brought up, the Roman Reigns not selling. And you said it works with a heel. I don't even think that. I think the only type of wrestler that could pull that off would be a big, strong guy like a Braun Strowman, like a Mark Henry, like a Big Show. But when you got this, he's a smaller guy. He's not a Braun Strowman. He's just a regular guy. Yeah, he has the physique. But when you got him getting up like Superman, or Wolverine, instantly healing, or it doesn't sell the match. It doesn't sell that the opponent is doing any damage. And so that match to me would get a B. I think I want to touch on like Kevin Owens, because I feel like his title reign is being tainted by the fact that he doesn't have that clean win over one of the top guys. He never beat Seth Rollins clean, and he hasn't beaten Roman Reigns clean. And, even though he's a heel and he should be using dirty tactics, I would like to see him get a couple of clean wins just, to give his title reign a little bit of credibility. They've been building him up the way they built up Seth Rollins a couple years ago when he was champion, with all the interfering and all that. And even CM Punk at the start of his title reign was marred by interference. So I would like to see them, if they're going to continue with him as champion, for them to give him some clean wins. You know, what better place to start than WrestleMania? And the fact that it looks like Roman Reigns is either going to be going into a rivalry with Braun Strowman or even Undertaker, it kind of leaves Kevin Owens in a bit of a bind because now he doesn't really have a clear-cut opponent unless if they give him Seth Rollins, which I highly doubt that's going to happen. And with Chris Jericho now winning the Rumble, I don't know how you would justify him getting a title shot. So right now the Raw champion, the Raw top champion, is without an opponent for WrestleMania. Of course, they got 2 months to build up a story with him and whoever they want to put him up against. But yeah, they need to do a better job with him because he's the type of guy that he has the talent to be the next John Cena. He's ready. He's not like Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is still a diamond in the rough. He's still got a lot of work to do before he reaches that level of stardom. You know, you got two guys on Raw in Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens, the champion, who are ready, and Vince isn't totally convinced on or sold on Kevin Owens. I think he's a little bit more sold on Seth Rollins, but like you said, man, I think they should maybe turn Roman Reigns heel, put him in the mid card for a little bit, and build him up the right way, you know, because this superhero thing, it worked with John Cena for a while. It's not working with Roman Reigns, and they need to realize that after 2 years that it's not going to work this way. And I think that what's going to change this is the day that Vince McMahon finally decides to hand over the keys to Triple H. I feel like Triple H would have both Raw and SmackDown, you know, both of them doing a lot better than they are. You know, SmackDown is still a little bit better than Raw, but it's still not even great. You know, it's getting a little bit better ratings, but they're average ratings. You know, they're not like what WWE's used to. And I think if Triple H were to have control of both shows or even just Raw, it would do wonders for WWE and the product on these live shows. And I feel like Vince needs to hand over the keys, man. He needs to hand over the power.
Yeah, and even even if he doesn't, I mean, at least take somebody's input into consideration. But I do agree with you, man. I think the clean wins are or the lack of is keeping Kevin Owens. And I don't see it getting any better for him because if he goes against Goldberg, there's no way he's going to go over Goldberg. And the only good storyline that I can see with him is the him and Jericho storyline in WrestleMania. And I can see him maybe getting that win and maybe that being the one clean match that he gets at WrestleMania. But and that's about as hopeful I can be for him. And I think they owe him that because I think he's been carrying Raw, you know, since they toned down Seth Rollins with the Triple H thing. But let's transition here. And before we talk into the biggest match of the night, let's talk about some other smaller matches here. Let's see. We had Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax, and Nia Jax won, which we predicted, and there was just nothing big coming out of that. Unless you have anything about it, I mean, I thought it was exactly what we said. You know, we said that it was going to be kind of a squash match just because it was going to play into that injury, and you know, it's going to keep the storyline going.
Yeah, Nia Jax dominated most of that match. You know, Sasha had some moments, but it's what was to be expected. You know, we both picked Nia Jax to win, and she got it done. The one that shocked me, well, I guess, you know, when you look at it, it really didn't shock me, but I went out on a limb, and that's the title match. But we'll get to that in a little bit. This match, really, it was what was to be expected with them playing, you know, hyping up the Sasha Banks knee injury. I wonder if she's maybe going to take a break, maybe go away for a while. You know, who knows if that's a real injury or if it's just a part of the storyline. But either way, she's deserving of a break, and I think it would do good for her because they're not using her properly. You know, she's somebody who she should have kept one of those title reigns and kept the title for a little bit. You know, like I talked about in the last podcast, they've given her the belt and then taken it away in 2 to 3 months, and I think it's not the right thing to do with her because she is the most popular female wrestler and the crowd obviously wants to have her as their champion, and they haven't done her justice. But yeah, this match was everything that we thought it was gonna be, and we both had Nia Jax, and Nia Jax got it done.
Yeah, and I don't think she's gonna be because for what I've been reading, they have big plans for her, for Mania, but I don't think it's gonna be title. What I've been reading and what I've listened to people talk about is a possible, and I don't. I've seen it. I've seen the confrontations in Raw, but I don't know how they would build towards it, and I don't know if they have enough time. But what I've been reading is a possible match between Sasha Banks and Stephanie McMahon as a one of those versus the Authority type matches. I know in Raw they've had the face-offs before where Sasha says she's the boss and Stephanie says I'm your boss, and maybe that's a way to leading up to that and how they keep her as the main girl without the title. I think WrestleMania might be just another rematch between Charlotte and Bayley, which we'll talk about here next. Yeah, man, they need to be smart with booking Sasha, even if she takes a break, because she is the most popular girl. She's the most over with the crowd, and I don't see her making another heel turn anytime soon. So, I don't think this loss does much for her. I think, of course, people played into the, she was hurt. They did a good job playing that out into the storyline. So I just think it's a little bit just of a boost for Nia Jax. And
yeah, I want to put a little input on that. You saying that Sasha's probably not going to turn heel. That's another thing that I've been reading, that they might turn her heel to have a rivalry with Bayley, and kind of have a round 2 of that match of the year that they had. I want to say it was 2015. Pretty sure it was 2015 that they won match of the year in NXT. And I've been reading that they're thinking about turning Sasha Banks heel just for that. But right now I don't think that would happen just because of the lack of talent in the women's division on Raw. It's just Nia Jax, Sasha, Bayley, and Charlotte. I don't even know what happened to Dana Brooke. I haven't seen her in a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen her either.
And Emelina, she's waiting until 2020 to debut.
Yeah, she's taking forever.
So they have a lack of talent, and I don't know if turning Sasha Banks heel just yet would be the smartest thing. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think what's gonna happen is it's gonna because they only have those 4 girls. I think it's gonna lead up for a fatal 4-way at Mania between those 4 girls. Between Sasha, Bayley, Nia Jax, and Charlotte. Because I think that's the only way you make a big title match that you haven't seen yet for those women.
I don't know.
And it's something new.
Yeah, but I don't know if that would work with a girl like Nia Jax, who's because the other 3 they have a more high paced type of match. Nia Jax is more that methodical, slow, calculated, beating type of match.
Yeah, but sometimes you need somebody to slow down the match.
Who knows? It might work. If they go that way, it would be probably a smart way to keep that women's division relevant. Because right now, SmackDown, with the amount of talent that they have in their women's division, they're doing a little bit better because they're able to make more storylines. Yeah. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what they do.
Plus, once they bring Asuka up, it's
yeah,
all over.
I think she definitely needs to come to Raw. They need to bring a couple of girls up and throw them in Raw.
We'll just have to see.
Yeah.
I think that fatal 4-way though, it keeps, at least even though we're 2 months away, it keeps a kind of like it keeps you guessing on who's gonna finally get that title at Mania. But
let's go ahead and talk about the title match. What did you think of Bayley versus Charlotte?
Bayley versus Charlotte. I think it went pretty quick. I kind of guessed that Charlotte was gonna win because I think she's gonna hold this pay-per-view title reign till Mania. I think she won't lose it till then. Maybe to Bayley. So I think we both guessed that she was gonna win. Oh wait,
actually no, I had Bayley.
You had Bayley.
I had Bayley just based off the fact that I had Nia Jax in the other match, and I figured that the winner of both matches would face each other. I guess I overlooked the whole pay-per-view thing. I probably should have paid more attention to that. I knew it was there, but I didn't think it was gonna matter. Just because, like I said, they have such a small talent pool in the women's division that I feel like you can't be having these 3 and 4 match rivalries. Like they do Charlotte and Bailey again. I mean, we've seen it what 3 times already.
Yeah.
So if we see it a 4th time, there's not going to be much interest in that match, and I think that went into me picking Bailey. Obviously, if I could go back, I would have picked Charlotte. But yeah, I feel like that pay-per-view record will probably fall at WrestleMania. I believe, and I feel like you said you think it might be a fatal 4-way. I could see it being another triple threat between Bailey, Charlotte, and Sasha Banks.
Yeah, and I don't think the reason why I don't think it's going to be a singles match is because what I do remember from that match last night or on Sunday was that Charlotte actually looked dominant against Bailey. Bailey had her moments, but Charlotte just looked like she was, like she said, superior to her. The way she won with the natural selection outside, in that apron, was, it was creative. She pulled all her stunts. She did that moonsault that she does perfect. And so as far as that match goes, man, I would give that match at least the match an A, just on how well they worked. And but it'd be interesting to see with Charlotte as the standing champ and the 2 face women in the division. It'd be interesting to see what they're gonna go to another pay-per-view before WrestleMania. But moving on from that, let's just talk about the biggest match of the night. Let's talk about Cena AJ. That match, I was assuming that it was gonna be good. But I didn't think it was gonna be as good as that match went. And I think of the 2 of us, you're a bigger fan of the 2 guys than I am. So I'm gonna let you just talk about that match first. Are you happy with the ending of the match? Are you happy with how it happened? And overall, what you think of the match? First of all, did you think it was better or just as good as their SummerSlam match?
No, it's the best match they've had, and what I think about the match, I was overall as a wrestling match, it was fantastic. It's the early candidate for match of the year, but in an emotional standard, I'm kind of mixed emotions because, like you said, I'm a big fan of both of them. I'm a bigger fan of AJ. That's my guy. He's been my guy since he was in TNA as a young guy. Short hair and all that. All you big AJ fans, you know what I'm talking about. But all in all, I'm a fan of both guys. I'm happy that they gave the title to John Cena. The 16th title reign. I don't know where they're gonna go from here if the rumors that we've been reading are true. I don't like the fact that he would lose the title in not this Sunday, but the next Sunday after, at Elimination Chamber, because from what we've been reading is that they're finally going to give Bray Wyatt a title run.
Oh, yeah, and that's because we didn't mention this when we talked about the Rumble. Randy Orton won the Rumble.
Yeah, but we'll get back to that. But, yeah, like I said, the rumor is that Bray's finally going to get the title win that he's been desperately needing, for the last 3 years. And if that's true, I don't like the fact that they made this John Cena's 16th title reign, because I feel like his 16th title reign would have to it means something, obviously, but it would have to have some length to it, to maybe put the final touches on John Cena's career. His when he first came up and started winning world titles, he would have those long reigns. When he first won the title from JBL, and then when he won it back from Edge and Randy Orton. And the last few years when he's won the world title, he's had these short reigns, and it's kind of taken some of the luster off of the number of reigns he's had. But all in all, it was a great match. Like I said, match of the year candidate early on. Best match that they've had. Definitely glad that both of them got to shine. They stole the show. I wouldn't have been mad if this would have closed the show. especially with them knowing that John Cena was going to get to his 16th reign. But I feel like that would have made it too obvious too if that would have closed the show. But all in all, there's not much you could say about this match because they've done this before. You know, maybe not this good, but they've had great matches before, and just got to give it up for John Cena getting that 16th title reign.
Yeah, I was the one thing I do like about this match over all the other matches is the amount of work that I think John Cena put in this match. In the last match, you know, AJ carried the match based on what his moveset was and how, you know, and John Cena did his thing and they worked, you know, they worked together. But in this one, I like how, you know, there wasn't much of a move change, but I like his attitude change. I like the way that he did look more you know, ferocious, more angry. He looked like he was ready to take AJ out. You know, he didn't just want a title. He didn't just want to win the title. He wanted to beat AJ bad. And, you know, his face expressions when he was doing the clotheslines, you know, that he was doing like I call them the meat hook clotheslines, the Ryback clotheslines. And all just the face expressions, you know, when AJ kicked out of the Super AA on the up the top rope, just the way he sold this match, I think what put this match over the top for me. And one of his best matches in a long time, I think, for me. And I was happy. I was happy that John Cena won, not just because it wasn't just like, oh, he has the 16th, you know, they gave it to him. It was because, unlike Roman Reigns, like I said earlier, you know, it looked like a struggle. You didn't necessarily know that he was going to win because AJ had beat him before. But it was a great show. The finish, you know, the AA rolling into another AA finish, I think was the best thing that he's done in a while. So overall, man, I think it's the best thing that they could have done for the WWE title, even if you give it to Bray Wyatt, because before you hand the title to Bray Wyatt, which you're not going to be sure if it's going to be worth it, if it's going to lose its prestige. The only way you make a title reign for Bray Wyatt mean anything is if he beats John Cena, you know. And as of right now, even if he loses, you know, maybe not to Bray Wyatt, but even if he beats it and the last champ before him is John Cena, I think the title just means that much more, and it makes Bray Wyatt look better later on if they do give him the title here in the Elimination Chamber.
Well, the reason why I brought that up was because if you know he won it, you know, if he were to drop it in 2 weeks, it's almost like it's like they were like, all right, let's give him the 16th title, get it over with, and move on. You know, and I don't think, you know, with the hard work that John Cena has put in over his career, you know, 15 years, almost 20 years, you know, actually it's 15 exactly this year. So a decade and a half of him busting his butt, you know, keeping the company afloat through the ups and downs, you know. And I just don't like the fact that they were like, if what we've been reading happens, that they would be like, oh, let's just give him the title, get it over with, and then take it off of him. I feel like he should have had at least, or he should have, you know, a little bit of a run with it, you know, at least to WrestleMania. I think that would be good, you know. I've been reading some rumors, you know, that you know, to go along with the Bray Wyatt win the title at Elimination Chamber, if that weren't to happen, been reading rumors that Vince is thinking about doing another Randy versus John Cena match. You know, what perfect way to cap off, if this is John Cena's last year, you know, and last WrestleMania, what perfect way to cap it off than with him having a match at the grandest stage of all for the best title, the most prestigious title, against arguably his biggest rival in Randy Orton. That would be a great way to end his career, you know, and you know, drop the title to a man who's also well deserving of being champion. But I want to go back to something that you talked about John Cena putting in the work in this match, you know, selling and all that, and you know, the comparison you made to Roman Reigns. I think the reason why John Cena, you know, he does get some boos here and there, but the reason why he's been consistent in getting his cheers and being a fan favorite is because the fans know that he's put in the work. You know, he's a guy who since he was a kid wanted to wrestle. You know, this was his dream. This is something that he busted his butt, he busted his ass, you know, to do, you know, and he's worked hard. It's not like Roman Reigns, you know. The biggest mistake that WWE did with Roman Reigns was bringing The Rock out in 2015, I believe it was, when he won the Royal Rumble, to help him. That was like the nail in the coffin for Roman Reigns, because it showed the fans that he's getting all this big push because of his family heritage, and I think that's been the biggest mistake they've made with Roman Reigns. You know, not the fact that Vince wants to make him the top guy, but the fact that they made it obvious that he's only getting this push because of who he's related to. And I think that's what separates Roman Reigns from John Cena, is the fact that John Cena put in the hard work to make it to where he is, and Roman Reigns still has a ways to go to be on that level, man.
Yeah, and I think that's very obvious. I think that keeps Roman Reigns from, you know, that's what makes him a step below AJ Styles, a step below Seth Rollins, a step below Kevin Owens. It's that you don't see him put in the work. You don't see him put in the struggle. And it goes back to what we said. But, you know, to recap everything, let's talk a little bit of, you know, looking ahead.
Well, let's go in order, man. We're kind of jumping around.
I know. So let's recap and kind of see where we can go from the future here.
From the future.
Or to the future. So, in the Charlotte Bayley thing, we kind of talked about that fatal four-way being possibly the best thing, or a triple threat between her, Sasha, and Bayley. Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley. Triple threat. Mania. Probably the best case scenario for that women's division. What you think?
Oh, what do we know? Oh, I'm paying attention to Raw or the SmackDown right now.
I know.
It's interesting that I brought up the rumor of Randy versus John Cena at WrestleMania, and right now John Cena came out to open the SmackDown Live, and interrupting him is Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. And Randy Orton just said that if somehow John Cena makes it out of the chamber, that pretty much he'll be waiting for him in Houston, you know, to cap off the rivalry that they've had. He pretty much brought that up like I did a few moments ago, saying that it's been a long cycle, you know, to get to this point. And I wouldn't be mad at seeing this match one more time at WrestleMania. They've had some hellacious matches. And like I said, what better way to cap off, you know, both of their careers than to headline arguably the biggest WrestleMania of all time, you know, for the most prestigious title.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen. But
we'll see. Anyways, back to what we
were talking about Charlotte Bayley and the possible best case scenario for them being Bayley, Sasha, and Charlotte all in one match at Mania or at Fastlane, wherever you want to see it. But I mean, that's about the best storylines you can see is Sasha maybe turning on Bayley, maybe getting a little jealous.
Best case scenario, man. I'm gonna go ahead and jump the gun and answer your question. Is seeing like I would like to if there is gonna be a Fastlane, because I don't know, man. I was reading it that there is, and now they're not really hyping it up. You know, they haven't announced it. But if there was to be a Fastlane, I would like to see Bayley Charlotte one more time, and Bayley winning the title from her, and then Sasha Banks coming out to congratulate her, air quotes, and then you know, turn on her right there. And set up the match for WrestleMania. You know, it'd be a tremendous match. You know, these girls know each other so well. And then I would like to see Charlotte face off versus Dana Brooke, you know, her protege. I don't know where Dana Brooke is. I don't know if she's injured or if they wrote her off. But I would like to see Charlotte face Dana Brooke at WrestleMania. I think that would be interesting. It would bring their whole relationship, you know, their whole union full circle. And I would like to see those two women's matches for WrestleMania, and then that kind of it would leave somebody like a Nia Jax out, you know, in the cold. I don't know what they would do with her. Maybe do something like what they did with what they've done with the guys, doing the whole Andre Memorial Battle Royal. Why not just get a bunch of girls and then have her just dominate it and keep her kind of high on the rankings, you know? So that's kind of my scenario for the women's division of Raw.
Yeah, and like you said, they need more girls. They need more girls because they're running out of the storyline with just three top girls, and Nia Jax isn't up there yet. So unless it's a fatal 4-way, I don't see her in the top tier of that division. So we didn't talk about this match, but let's talk about. We'll just say the results and talk about what can possibly happen next. The Neville Rich Swann match, which I predicted Neville was going to win. I thought he was going to win. You went with Rich Swann. And Neville won, which is good. It's good for the cruiserweights because I've been reading a lot of negativity from Vince. I think this is just the rumor backstage that Vince is kind of regretting the whole 205 cruiserweight division. So I'm hoping that Neville, who seems to have a little bit more of an attitude, a little bit more charisma, a little bit more character development, and mic skills finally, at least a little bit, might mean a little bit of a better thing for the cruiserweights. I know the big thing fan-wise that people are criticizing is the fact that it seems like WWE doesn't let them do cruiserweight things. You know, it's not letting them wrestle like cruiserweights, which is you can see pretty clearly from the first match that Daniel Bryan and T.J. Perkins had. They had a little bit of a couple of risky moves, and I know me and you talked about it, and we said that's kind of what they were missing and what we liked about the cruiserweights at the beginning. But as we've seen this thing develop, they've gone away from the actual cruiserweight style wrestling, and right now, if it keeps it like it is, you just have smaller guys wrestling regular matches, and I think if you keep it like that, then you're not gonna have anything within the cruiserweights. So I think hopefully with Neville gives him a little push and a little bit more leeway to have those cruiserweight style daring matches. But if you want to, to me, if you want to develop a cruiserweight division, you have to have Neville as a heel being the champ, because that's the only way you build up all these guys coming up as faces. So we got a little taste of Rich Swann. He wrestled pretty good. He's an amazing talent. Maybe a little bit more development, maybe a little bit less dancing, but other than that, man, I think this is a good opportunity for them to develop more of these cruiserweights.
I thought that well, first I want to touch on what you said with Vince, kind of having kind of like, I would say, like, he has the training wheels on the cruiserweight division because, like you said, he doesn't let them do cruiserweight things. I understand that he's trying to maintain safety, for the wrestlers. He's not trying to have the Japan-style wrestling where guys are pulling off crazy moves, risking breaking their necks and stuff. But with that style wrestling, you have to have that high-risk move set. And Vince is he's going to have to eventually take the training wheels off those guys and let them go. With my pick, I like you said, I had Rich Swann because I felt like WWE had the guy that could elevate the cruiserweights. I feel like Rich Swann is that guy. He's probably the only guy who has a connection with the crowd, which is everything in WWE. If you can't get a reaction, whether positive or negative, from the crowd, you're nobody. You're not going to get nowhere. And that's what failed with T.J. Perkins. It failed with Brian Kendrick. And I feel like it's going to eventually fail with Neville because Neville has never been a crowd favorite as a face. He doesn't really get a crowd reaction as a heel. Yeah, he's working better as a heel. But it's all about that crowd reaction. The only guy from the cruiserweight division who's been able to get a crowd reaction has been Rich Swann. I feel like he needs to keep dancing because that's what gets the kids involved. WWE is all about the kids nowadays. So, I felt like he's the guy who they should have kept the title on. All in all, it was a good match. Both guys are talented. Both guys know how to go about a match. Making a B plus match, maybe if you want to go that high. But it was a good match. It was a good showing for the cruiserweights. I don't know. I think this rivalry is gonna continue, and we'll just have to see where it goes. Apparently, these guys in real life were close friends or are close friends.
Yeah, they travel around together and stuff.
So they've kind of molded the rivalry around that. And I'd like to see it keep going and see where it goes. Maybe they could be the top cruiserweight match for WrestleMania, and I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing those two guys go at it one more time with the training wheels taken off, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it again, man. I also wouldn't mind seeing a guy like Cedric Alexander getting a little push up there against Neville. I know. But at the end of the day, like you said, if you're not connected with the crowd, and I don't think any of these guys are. If the crowd ain't into you, they're not buying your merchandise, and if they're not buying your merchandise, you're nobody in Vince's eyes. So somebody's got to get together, get Triple H to get that thing going. Cause
and one thing that I want to bring up, man, is the biggest problem that WWE is probably having with the cruiserweight division is the whole 205 thing. I don't think they should have never gotten their own show. I feel like they should have just gotten more time on Raw, because the one thing that's hurting all these separate brands or shows, whatever you want to call them, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and 205 Live, is the fact that there's 4 of them. It's too much.
It's too much.
Yeah, too much content. They need to dumb it down a little bit. They should have kept it at Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. Because when you think about Raw, you think about SmackDown, you think about NXT. You think about it's almost like 3 different companies, because they each have their own talent. But when you see 205 guys on Raw, it's almost like why watch 205 Live if you're seeing the top cruiserweights on Raw every week? And I think that's why that show isn't doing too good. And I think if Vince were to pull a plug on it, I wouldn't be mad. Just give them more time on Raw. Raw's got 3 hours. Give them, if you need to give them an hour on Raw, give them an hour on Raw. You got that crowd. And another problem I think with 205 Live is the fact that it comes on
after SmackDown. Yeah, that's I was gonna say that's the worst aspect of it. I think, and you can see it if you've even tuned in to any episode of 205. And I've just seen highlights. The crowd is exhausted after SmackDown, and then you can't expect the crowd to get hyped for not only an extension of the show, then again with guys that you don't know.
Yeah.
So
and not even that. It's not even that the crowd isn't involved or exhausted. It's the fact that the crowd ain't even there. They leave right after SmackDown. Right after that last match, because all you hardcore WWE fans, if you've ever been to a show, you know that after the show goes off air, they have that one bonus match, and after that match, most of the crowd is gone before 205 even starts. So I feel like that's also hurting the brand, if you want to call it a brand. So I think Vince would be smart in pulling the plug. I know they did a good job of hyping it up. Maybe pull the plug and just give them a complete hour on Raw. Raw's got 3 hours. They don't have enough talent to fill the 3 hours, so why not give the cruiserweights 3 matches on Raw?
Yeah, I think I agree. That's probably the best idea. I mean, because Raw needs something to do for those 3 hours. Those 3 hours are starting to feel like forever. But moving on. Let's talk Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. Talk about some Roman Reigns first. We both talked about
more Roman Reigns, man. Now we sound like hypocrites.
Because we're talking about we're summarizing.
Yeah, but like the thing is, we're over here saying that Vince is pushing Roman Reigns down our neck, and now we're gonna talk about Roman Reigns.
Well, we're saying that they had their match. They had their match. So what's next for both of them? We agree both Roman Reigns should probably be in some type of feud with Braun Strowman next.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That should be it.
I think it should be for the title.
I think it should be for the U.S. title at least.
Watch. I bet money that what they're going to do is if they don't do the Chris Jericho-Kevin Owens match, they'll do like what they've done at all the other WrestleManias, 6-man ladder match for the U.S. title.
Yeah.
You know how they've done
those
that?
things.
Yeah.
One of those randoms. But, yeah, so for them, and then for Kevin Owens, We don't know yet because we don't know what Goldberg's going to do unless he responds to Brock Lesnar and they just both go out of the picture till WrestleMania. But say Goldberg isn't in the picture for a title run, what's next?
Brock Lesnar.
But I think from last night from Raw, the only thing in Brock Lesnar's perspective right now, anything that he wants, the only thing I think he wants is Goldberg.
Yeah, but I like you're saying that if Goldberg's not in the picture, I think if for Goldberg not to be in the picture for a Kevin Owens title shot is it would be if they did the match at Fastlane. Like this is all contingent on if there is a Fastlane, but if they do have a Fastlane and they do that third match there, and Brock were to beat him and Goldberg were to go out like that, then that frees up Brock. So most of the predictions I'm making are based off if there isn't a Fastlane.
Right.
When it comes to Brock and Goldberg.
I'm gonna say I would much rather see Kevin Owens on a storyline with Chris Jericho.
Because
I'm gonna say they've been playing that angle for a while, so I think that's what I want to see first. They have the time. I mean, we got 2 months till freaking WrestleMania, so make it happen.
All right, but check this out. Let's say, all right, so we got Roman Reigns going up against Braun for the U.S. title. Let's say they do the Goldberg-Brock 3 at a Fastlane.
See, I don't think that match needs a title.
All right, yeah, okay, so let's say they do it there. Brock finally goes over. He gets his big win. That frees up both of them for WrestleMania. So we got Roman versus Braun. That means that Undertaker's free. Why not do Undertaker versus Goldberg? You know, there's seeds have been planted for that match because, you know, like you said, Undertaker eliminated Goldberg. You do that match, it's two old guys who can't really wrestle a fast-paced match, so they'd be able to have a slow-paced match, which benefits both of them. They could put on a decent match at that pace, you know, and then that frees up Brock versus Kevin Owens. And the reason why I bring that up is Brock is a guy, you've built him up as a beast. I feel like the best way to utilize Brock is as world champion. And another reason why I bring up this match or predict or kind of throw it out there is because I believe last year Kevin Owens was campaigning to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. So, you know, Kevin Owens is the top guy right now on Raw. Brock Lesnar is the man in the whole WWE. You know, he's the beast. Put them two against each other for the title, and you know, you got your WrestleMania main event right there.
I would agree, except for the fact that Paul Heyman he made it a point that match that Brock Lesnar wanted was at Mania with Goldberg. So I think they're already playing that angle.
Oh, man, that subject could change, man. They could change that.
I don't think they're gonna change because they want to make this Mania big again, and they want to make it like every other year where they're gonna put something giant in the front picture of the poster, and I think there's nothing bigger than what they've been playing for the past few months.
All right, but
Goldberg, Lesnar.
What's the way?
I think for now that's set in stone.
But let's say this: you talk about being big. This is just hypothetical. Goldberg right now has ran through Brock Lesnar twice. So that's obviously taken some of the luster away from that matchup.
Yes, that's why I don't like the match.
What's bigger than Goldberg, a WCW guy, the top WCW guy, against the top WWE guy for the first time ever at WrestleMania?
Undertaker?
Yeah.
Well,
that's massive.
Well, this is the thing. I think that'd be massive on paper, but it'd be a dud.
Yeah, but once you got the fans in the seats and the fans buying the network, it don't matter what you put in the ring, man.
But the fans aren't dumb. That's what I'm saying. The fans aren't stupid. So I don't think you can sell a match because, first of all, I'd be the first one to be like, yo, there's no way that Goldberg, who hasn't wrestled in 12 years, still trying to get the pace right, and Undertaker, who has no pace, you know, he looks like he barely has a heartbeat. It's going to pull off a good match. I think the match is set in stone right now is Goldberg and Brock. So I think for Kevin Owens, the biggest thing that you can make happen for him is Chris Jericho. I mean, Chris Jericho is a superstar. He's the best guy in the business. He's been one of the top guys in the business. I mean, we had an argument. He might be the best talent WWE's had in, maybe forever. So, and the angle of the two best friends breaking up finally till, working that angle till WrestleMania, you can build a nice, 6 to 8 week storyline for them. I just think that's the best way to have a big event with Goldberg Brock still happening at Mania, and then a big main event for the title for those two guys. I think it probably make the most sense. Because like I said, I don't see Goldberg and Brock needing the title. I could see it being for the title, but I just don't see how they would play that.
Wow, there it is. I'm telling you, the seeds have been planted.
We'll talk about this later.
I'm not mad about it. But, yeah, if you go with what makes most sense, Goldberg, Brock, Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, and Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman. Those are matches that make the most sense. And then, Bray versus Randy for SmackDown, and then John Cena versus Undertaker. Those are probably the matches that make the most sense. Those are the matches that I think they should go with. But if you're talking about selling pay-per-views or selling the network, because that's pretty much what they're selling now, and getting butts in the seats, man. I mean, if you got Goldberg versus Undertaker headlining, I mean, it's something that it's never been seen before. It's something that you got both guys in the business right now. They're both relatively healthy, unless you believe the rumors that Undertaker needs the I don't know. I'm not sure if it's knee or hip.
I've heard hip surgery. Yeah. I know he had one before, and I think he was hoping for after WrestleMania getting another one.
It might be both. Who knows? But anyways.
He's broken.
Yeah, he's broken down. He's, 53, 54. He's old. So, but yeah, it depends on what if they're going with selling pay-per-views, obviously Goldberg versus Undertaker, never been done before. If they're going for quality and for for the product in the ring, then I think the card that I just brought up probably is the best thing to do.
I want good quality matches.
All right, then go with the card that I just...
Exactly. I want Goldberg and Brock, make it happen again, and Chris Jericho versus Kevin Owens.
And then Braun versus Roman?
Yes. The question is, which we'll talk about it later on, is how they get the U.S. title off of Jericho. But moving on from this. So AJ Styles and Cena, we talked about that match. Cena, we don't know what's going to happen because they have in 2 weeks there's Elimination Chamber coming up. So clearly, let's see, AJ's going to be in that match.
Yeah, obviously.
Bray Wyatt's going to be in that match.
Bray.
I'm going to say Baron Corbin, The Miz. Randy won't be there because he's already...
What is that? That's 5, right?
That's 4. Corbin, Miz, Bray, AJ,
and then the
Cena,
champ, John Cena, and then who's your
and
6?
then maybe Ziggler.
Nah, I would say Cena, Bray, Miz, Baron Corbin. That's 4. What did I say? AJ, and then I would say probably close it out with Dean.
Yeah,
Dean.
Yeah, Dean.
I don't think Ziggler. He's ever since he won the title and then dropped it. He's
I don't know what they're doing with him.
But yeah, I think that would be the 6. That's probably gonna be the 6, even though Dean has the Intercontinental title. It's not like they haven't done a champion versus champion type thing. So I think those are the 6. Like you said, I don't think Randy. Even we just watched a promo where Randy was talking to Cena, saying that he'll wait for him at WrestleMania if he were to make it out of Chamber. So obviously, I guess Randy took his name out of contention for the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, and there's just no reason.
Yeah, it's the smartest thing to do.
Would make no sense. So do you think that Cena carries the title to Mania?
Well, with them hyping that match up, I'd have to say, yeah. I'd have to say he retains it in the Chamber. As much as I hate to see that because, I've been clamoring for Bray Wyatt to have a title around his waist for a long time, He had the tag team titles, but that's kind of like... That was almost like what I said with the John Cena winning the 16th and then dropping it so soon. It was just like let's get it over with, let's give him a title, and then we could just say he's had a title run. But, so yeah, I would love to see Bray win it, but with them hyping up already the John Cena versus Randy Orton match, I think that's the match that they're going to go with.
I'm going to go with what I want to see. What I want to see is Bray finally get the title. So I'm going to go with that. Even though I agree with you, based on this, I don't see any other big match at Mania for Cena other than a title match.
Not even Undertaker?
Undertaker's an if for me in anything. Because, I don't know if he can have a match. And even if he does, I just don't, with Vince pushing Roman Reigns against Taker so much, I don't see him. So, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an alternate match for Cena that Cena could have in Mania that would be big, that wouldn't need a title. But I don't see one. So based on that, I'm going to say I agree with you, and I feel like it's going to be Randy and Cena again.
All right, so we got Randy and Cena, and
so then what do you do with AJ? I don't think you can leave AJ out of Mania.
I know that's what I'm getting to. I'm going to say that they work a deal out with Kurt Angle and bring him back for one more match. He's talked about it before. It's they have chemistry. It's not like he would need to come. He wouldn't have to come and have a match to get some ring rust off because he has already worked with AJ, so they still have that chemistry there.
And Kurt Angle, that's the one guy that Kurt Angle said he wants to wrestle.
Yeah, that's another thing I was going to say.
So
yeah, so I would say AJ versus Kurt Angle, unless if Daniel Bryan comes back. AJ is one of those guys. There's 3 dream matches that I think the WWE Universe wants to see AJ have. From most likely to least likely, I could see AJ versus Kurt Angle, AJ versus Daniel Bryan, or AJ versus Shawn Michaels. I obviously think that Shawn Michaels one is going to be a long shot. So I think those are the 3 matches that he could have. He's one of those guys, like you said about Brock and Goldberg. He doesn't need a title, to be relevant. Yeah. Obviously he got the title because of the merchandise he was pushing and the fact that he is AJ Styles. I could see any combination of those 3 matches, unless if let's say they do like a Raw versus SmackDown match, and obviously, but I think Seth is going to be wrapped up with Triple H. I wouldn't mind seeing Seth Rollins versus AJ. I think that would blow the roof off of the
WrestleMania.
Yeah, the WrestleMania, even though it's probably not going to have a roof.
Yeah, because the reason why I bring it up is because bottom line, AJ's about to be 40 here soon. Next year, I think. So he only has a couple of Manias. He doesn't have too long. So if we go based on realistic, how long they normally go.
Well, they could stretch him out, like they did with the Undertaker towards the end, where they turn him into a part-timer. Because for his career, he's not like these other guys who have sustained a major injury. He's never really had a major injury, throughout his career. So he does have a little bit more durability in him because of that. He's not like a guy like a John Cena, like an Undertaker, who they have suffered these major injuries. Triple H is another one. Randy, all these guys have gone through those major injuries and recoveries. AJ hasn't, so. I could see him going strong at this pace. 3 years maybe as a full-time, and then they could probably stretch him out for a couple more WrestleManias if they play smart. Yeah.
I don't know. But, I don't know. As far as this one, I think the best case scenario would be a Kurt Angle thing. God, I want to see Kurt Angle back. Yeah.
Who the hell is that?
I don't know, the squash match.
That's the blue Smurf.
For anybody listening, we're watching SmackDown live right now, and they got Carmella going against somebody random. So then should we talk about Raw and just get it over with?
Well,
Raw and Smack.
There's only 2 really big highlights from Raw, and you've already touched on one of them, the Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman calling out Goldberg for a match.
We beat that horse to the ground.
Yeah, and then there's there's the guy who made his debut, his main roster debut, who we thought was going to show up in the Royal Rumble. He didn't. He finally showed up. And if you saw Raw, you know exactly who I'm talking about. He's the Destroyer, Samoa Joe.
How dare he? So mad.
What, of Samoa Joe?
No, honestly, I wanted to see him in SmackDown, just because I wanted a chance to see him and AJ go at it in the WWE, because I know they have great matches. And then the possibility of Kurt Angle coming back, and that's another match I would have loved Kurt Angle to have, is him and Samoa Joe, because again, I know they have great matches. So that's kind of why I wanted to see him in SmackDown. But you know, I'm not mad at a possible match with Samoa Joe and Seth Rollins here coming up soon. I think he'd be a good a match between Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens would probably be crazy.
I'd love to see Samoa Joe against Brock. I think Samoa Joe's one of those guys who you look at and you're like, yeah, this guy's
gonna go toe to toe.
Yeah, he's got all the tools to beat a Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought he was gonna come to Raw all along, just because of that factor. You know, and like you said, you brought up a good point with Kevin Owens. You know, he would have a 5-star match with KO, even though they are bigger guys. You know, it's crazy how WWE and professional wrestling in general has changed over the years. You know, it used to be that the guys who were agile, who were quick, were the skinnier guys, and then the bigger guys were the more slow, deliberate. You know, work you, beat you down type guys. But now there's a new crop of wrestlers, man. You know, like a Kevin Owens, like a Samoa Joe. You know, they're quick, man. They're fast, and they're able to pull off some moves that you used to not see these big guys pull off. Even a guy like Braun Strowman's pretty quick on his feet.
Yeah, when Braun Strowman's pulling off a drop kick, you know it's a new generation.
Yeah,
and I think it's just a new evolution of wrestling where there's just guys are willing to put on more work. I think it's just, you know, and I think that a lot of it comes from the performance center that they have pretty established, and that and NXT, man, I think NXT as a developmental brand, I think it's worked wonders for a lot of guys, man. And I know the WWE's plan is to make NXT like a third big type brand, but I like where it's at as a developmental brand, because this is how you get these new guys, these new talents that come off, like Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins and all these guys. But
it's all Triple H, man. Triple H needs to have full control.
He's the genius behind everything, man. And what were we talking about before this?
We were talking about Samoa Joe, and then finally making his debut.
Samoa Joe, I mean, he could go big. Not just go big, but I mean big in no time. I mean, he could be part of the main event storyline immediately.
Yeah, he could be the AJ Styles for Raw.
Yeah. Which, again, I wanted to see him with AJ Styles, but I'm going to stop complaining. But, and even then, you know, he came back on Raw, or he debuted on Raw and beat on Seth Rollins, which probably, if they have a fast lane, like we're assuming, that means Seth Rollins and him are going to go at it. And I'm going to assume Triple H is going to have some type of involvement in that, and it's going to lead up to the final Triple H versus Seth Rollins match at Mania, which is another big Mania match that we've been waiting for. So, you know, him debuting, I much rather him debut in this way than in the Rumble, because I didn't want him to debut in the Rumble if he wasn't going to win it, because I think that would take away from him debuting. So I like that it came this way. He's clearly like the authority guy now, because Kevin Owens, I don't know if the authority approves of Kevin Owens, if they did Seth Rollins when he was the authority guy. So I'm going to assume not Kevin Owens, but Samoa Joe is going to take that spot now. But I like it, man. I like how he came. I like that he's a heel immediately. I like how he works as a heel. And I can't wait to see what storylines and how they book him and the matches that he's going to be able to have with these guys. And I love the fact that the first guy they put him up there is the hardest worker they have in Raw right now, which is Seth Rollins.
Yeah, the best guy. This just in, though, I got a notification. They've announced the 6 guys that are going to be in the chamber. Obviously, John Cena will be defending. Baron Corbin,
Of course.
Dean Ambrose, AJ, Bray, and Miz. So we pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Those are the 6 guys that are going to be in the chamber. And, we already gave our predictions on that. But back to the whole Seth Rollins thing. Yeah, I like the fact that they brought up the top guy from NXT that they had available at the moment in Samoa Joe and put him up against the top guy on Raw. Samoa Joe could be, hypothetical. Let's just be honest here, too. Brock Lesnar isn't going to be around for much longer. And Samoa Joe could be that next monster for Raw. He could be the next beast. And the way that they brought him up and they already threw him up against Seth Rollins is the smartest way to go. When NXT guys first started coming to the main roster, they were doing a bad job booking them, but lately they've been doing a pretty good job. You know?
They've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, they've actually made those NXT guys mean something, and I like that. I like the fact that they did this with Samoa Joe. A match between him and Seth Rollins is going to be interesting, but like you said, it's probably just going to be a match to set up the Triple H match. I could see it being a match, like a 10-minute match, and then towards the end, Triple H get involved in them just giving Seth Rollins a brutal beating.
Yeah,
and
I like the match just because, like you said, it immediately puts him high up in how good he is. Because as big as a fan base as WWE has, I don't think a lot of them know Samoa Joe other than NXT. It's a hardcore wrestling fan that knows Samoa Joe from TNA. Because TNA, when he was the big guy in TNA, it was a long time ago. So I think this immediately puts him up there for you to say, basically, look how good he is because he's going against Seth Rollins. And watch how great of a match he's going to have, which I'm predicting is going to be a near perfect match between him and Seth. And like he said, it probably won't last much than 10, 15 minutes, and then Triple H is probably going to cost him the match. But yeah, man, so let's wrap this thing up. Big things of the week. When it comes to Raw, Samoa Joe's debut, beating the crap out of Seth Rollins. And then SmackDown, basically that breaking news that you announced, the Elimination Chamber. So the next thing we got looking forward to is Elimination Chamber for SmackDown, hopefully Fastlane for Raw, and then Mania.
Yeah.
Which I think they're supposed to take like a 6-week break between the last pay-per-view and Mania.
Yeah, because they have those media weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
And the last thing on the Royal Rumble, we were pretty accurate with our picks. Neither one of us predicted Randy Orton to win it. That was probably the one where, we both got it wrong.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, neither one of us picked him in our top
I don't think
3.
a single one of us, except for my Ty Dillinger pick, got an entrance right. Like a surprise entrance.
What was my surprise? Seth Rollins, Samoa Joe, Shinsuke. I had Kurt Angle and Kenny Omega. Yeah, I got all 5 of mine wrong.
I got 4 wrong.
And then you had who?
I had Ty, I had Booker T, I had Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and who the fuck was the other guy?
Yeah, I think you picked Kenny Omega too.
No.
Yeah, I think he was your number 5.
I have it here. No.
I'm telling you, he was your number 5.
No. Shinsuke. Which all of them failed me, except for Ty. And even Ty, he didn't last too long.
So we were 1 for 10 on there, and then on our winners,
awful.
I was terrible. I had Chris Jericho, Undertaker, and Shinsuke, and you had...
I had Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman, and Undertaker, and all of them let me down.
Yeah.
All those bastards.
Speaking of Braun Strowman, there was a time there where we both thought he was probably going to break the record.
I know. That's what I thought they were going to give him at least.
Yeah, because they started counting down, and once they did that, I thought that they were going to give it to him.
But then they gave Baron Corbin a good push by letting him eliminate Braun Strowman.
Oh, man.
That was good. I thought that was good. I thought that was cool. But So yeah, man, we're gonna come back next episode next week. We're gonna talk about some more Raw, some more SmackDown. Hopefully, there's more rumors and a little bit more of a storyline developed, so we can talk about that. But anything else? Anything else you want to talk about? Anything else that comes to mind? Nothing. All right. Well, guys, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and anywhere you get your podcast on. If you haven't followed us on Twitter, look us up at Mucha Lucha Pod. That's Mucha Lucha Pod Pod. And on Instagram at Mucha Lucha Podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep getting better. Me and Carlos here enjoy doing this podcast. As you can see, for the fact that we just rambled on for about an hour and 20 minutes. Shout out to Chipper, our co-worker, who is one of the loyals that listens to this podcast.
Fuck him. No, I'm just playing.
And shout out to Brian. Old man Brian.
If he ever ends up listening to this,
Brian.
he wouldn't make it through this anyways. You'd probably put him to sleep.
No, there's no way. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you for all the people. I see you guys is lining up. The people are listening. I see some of our episodes have up to 70 listeners. I thank you guys. Please keep sharing this. Keep trying to get in contact with us. Give us a shout out on Twitter, on Instagram.
What if the only thing they listen to is a theme song and then they cut it off?
Just the beginning.
Yeah, because that counts as a listen.
The beginning and the end. That'd be terrible. But again, all right, seriously, let's get out of here. Thank you guys. Stay Lucha. See you next week.
They understand, they talk to me. You got your rules and your religion, all designed to keep you safe. But when rules start getting broken, you start questioning your faith. I have a voice that is my savior, hates to love and loves to hate. I have a voice that has the knowledge and the power to your fate. I hear voices crying, I see heroes dying, I taste blood that's trying, I